The idea of seasoning cocktails seems like an alien idea to a lot of people, but when you think about chefs, they wouldn't dream of creating a dish without seasoning their food. So we're buying the best ingredients possible, we're putting them together in a really balanced way, but if we don't season our drinks appropriately, we're not going to bring the best out of our ingredients. So today I'm going to show you my 3 favorite seasonings. So the first seasoning we're going to talk about today is salt, specifically saline solution. And in order to make this, my personal recipe, which I prefer to go with, is 1 part salt to 5 parts water. Mix the two together, dissolve the salt into the water, and then put it into a little dripper bottle like this, just so you've got plenty of control over exactly how much saline you're adding. And because salt is a big, powerful thing, you want to be very careful that you don't overpower the drink, but equally, a little bit goes a really long way. And if ever you've done the test of adding a little bit of salt to a drink versus not adding the salt, a lot of the time, the drink with salt will come out on top. So most cocktails tend to be built around sweetness, acidity, and bitterness, and incorporating salt into this is actually a really, really powerful thing to do. So in the past, I've talked about Uber foods and Uber drinks, where you'll hit multiple taste components. So when we think about sweetness, acidity, bitterness, we've also got salt, we've got umami. Some people argue fattiness is one, piquancy or spice is another, and even the alcoholic burn could be argued to be a kind of taste component. But what we're doing here is bringing more complexity to the drinks that we serve. And salt has a really interesting interaction with other taste groups. So salt tends to bring together acidity and sweetness when you add it to cocktails, but it also suppresses bitterness. So when I make coffee cocktails, because there's an inherent bitterness there, I do often add salt. But when I'm looking for that kind of big, wide, sweet and sour flavor profile, I probably won't. So I wouldn't add salt to a daiquiri because I do want the width of the sweetness and acidity with the rum kind of coming through the middle. But what I would add it to is something like a Tommy's Margarita. So famously, salt works really nicely with lime. It wants to all come together, which the salt does a really good job of, bridging the tequila, the lime, the agave, and just making the whole drink work together really nicely. Another example would be a porn star martini. Although it is technically a sweet and sour drink, what we're doing is really celebrating the passion fruit. So rather than kind of bringing the width of the acidity and the sweetness as primary notes, which has easily happened, I like to use salt to really focus everything in, bring together those edges, and really make everything look at that really delicious passion fruit underpinned by the vanilla, and that works really well in there. So saline solution, although this is a small bottle, is very, very powerful, can have a massive impact on your drinks. If you want to test this, I'd recommend making a drink, add in 1 drop of saline at a time until you can taste salt, and then you know you've gone too far. The goal here isn't to make the drink salty, that's definitely not what we're looking to do. What we're trying to do here is elevate the ingredients in the drink to get the very, very best from them. So saline solution, extremely powerful. Now we're going to move on to my second favorite seasoning. So if the saline solution is going to be the salt in our seasoning, I'd say bitters are going to be treated a little bit more like pepper, where they're going to bring a little bit of bitterness, as the name suggests, a little bit of warmth, and just a new level to drinks, which tend to be more sweet and sour. So if you're going to buy 1 bitters to rule them all, aromatic bitters are the way to go. I really like Scrappy's, but Angostura bitters are widely available. And if you're going to buy a second bitters, something like a Seville orange bitters or a regular orange bitters will work really nicely. So aromatic bitters tend to be a little bit more spice driven and work really well with aged spirits, but also a lot of stirred cocktails like a Martinez, a Manhattan, but also in your more sweet and sour drinks like a Pisco Sour, which they work incredibly well in, and they're kind of a critical ingredient. Whereas your Seville orange bitters or your orange bitters tend to be more pithy. Think of the kind of peel of a citrus fruit, bitter, sweet, acidic. This is what you're looking at here. And this works nicely with kind of fruit flavors. Works really nicely in my porn star martini recipe, which we'll cover in a few episodes, because it really focuses in on the passion fruit. So these two are going to go a really long way, but you've also got all sorts of flavors of bitters. So when you've got these, you can experiment even more. So we've got things like chocolate bitters, which is going to bring that really nice kind of cacao nib bitterness. We've got black lemon bitters, grapefruit, lime. These are going to be more towards that kind of pithy flavor. But there are so many bitters in the world, so go for your life, enjoy them, try them, and see which works well for you. And now we've got our bitters, we've got our saline sorted. We're going to talk about number 3, which is vanilla extract. Okay, so the final seasoning to talk about today is going to be this little powerhouse, which is vanilla extract. And this might seem like we want to add vanilla to drinks, but that's not the goal at all. Similar to the salt, we're not making the drinks taste salty, nor are we making the drinks taste like vanilla. So you can add this in very small proportions until you reach that threshold of the drink tasting like vanilla, and then just pull it back for the next time you make the drink. Vanilla's delicious, so it's not too much of an issue. But what this does is just rounds everything out. So if you've got a drink that's a little bit spiky, a little bit rough, a little bit astringent, you can add vanilla extract and it just softens the whole thing. And kind of in the same way as vanilla in a spiced rum, just makes the whole thing a little bit more mellow and a little bit more manageable. Vanilla extract does that in cocktails. So I wouldn't use this all the time. I use it quite sparingly. But in your drinks which are kind of focused on like something like a whiskey sour, it's really nice because it just seems to bring those big acidic sweet flavors, and the whiskey just brings them all together and focuses in on the whiskey nicely. So a little bit really does go a long way. So even half a gram will make a massive difference. And if it's something that has those kind of vanilla notes, something like amaretto actually works really nicely with vanilla. Your kind of aged spirits, your rums, your aged whiskeys, your bourbon here, that's going to be really nice with vanilla. But what we don't want to do is take away from their flavor. You just want to underpin it and add a new level. So now we've talked about my 3 favorite seasonings: salt in the form of saline solution, bitters, which we're treating a little bit like pepper, and then finally vanilla extract, which has a massive impact on drinks, but we do use fairly sparingly. So in the next video, we're going to focus on something absolutely critical to every cold cocktail, not only the taste, but also the texture and the temperature of the drinks, and that's going to be a deep dive into ice and dilution. So that's going to be the next video in the series, and I'll see you there.